Okay, so what does all this mean? The next step is going to be a removal action, both soil and groundwater. And obviously before we can initiate that, we have some documentation we need to prepare, starting with an action memorandum. That essentially states the Navy is going to do a removal action for soil, for groundwater in these locations. And then after we finalize an action memorandum and we've got concurrence from the agencies, we'll prepare a work plan that essentially details out how we're going to accomplish that. And again, it's focusing on two areas: the groundwater in the Gateview area, and then soil in the southern portion of Site 12, and I'll tell you what that means in just a moment. Okay, so here's the Gateview area again. It's a little bit different of a map. What I'm trying to show here is that the red circle is the highest concentrations of petroleum, and it's focused on building 1313 area. But we do know, as outlined by the yellow or orangish circle, there's an area where the petroleum is kind of pancaked out, smeared out from that source area. And all of that petroleum is what's contributing to the green circle, which is the arsenic in groundwater. So arsenic just naturally occurs in soil and rock everywhere on the planet, even here. And when you have petroleum in the ground, it causes a chemical reaction with this naturally occurring arsenic, which allows it to get into the groundwater. So the two are kind of symbiotic of one another. You treat one to help the other. And so that's why we feel like we need to do a removal action for the petroleum to improve the overall. And it's actually explained on the next slide. Let's just flip to the next one. So why are we doing this? Well, the arsenic that's in the groundwater has the potential of reaching the bay, and the Water Board has expressed interest in making sure that we do something about this, and we have been monitoring it for a number of years. And the concentrations of arsenic in groundwater have decreased, but they haven't decreased significantly enough for us to say, well, it's going to be okay. We still need to do something to improve that. And the only way that we can improve that is by, well, removing the source of what's causing the arsenic, which is the petroleum. And with the recent data we've just collected for the data gap, the concentrations of petroleum haven't decreased significantly over the last 10 years or so. So if we remove that petroleum source area, the red circle so to speak, that will greatly enhance the overall area for reducing the amount of petroleum, reducing the amount of dissolved arsenic in groundwater. And so by doing all that, we hope that that will ultimately accelerate the schedule for the site and get it ready for reuse, which is currently slated as open space. Okay, so for the soil portion of the removal action, we're focusing in on, as I mentioned, the southern portion. This figure on the left is taken out of the remedial investigation report. The site was basically broken into two areas, the pink area being the southern region, yellow area being the northern region. And we're focusing in on the southern region as part of this removal action. And then on the right side, we've further broken it out into three areas. Area 1, in there. Area 2 in the southern portion of that. And then Area 3, which is optional as part of the Navy's contract. It's the Halliburton-Bigelow Court area. It requires the most amount of work, and there's so much ongoing work out there that we may not be able to get both projects going at the same time. Therefore, we're making it optional, something we might do a year or two from now, not maybe more immediate with like Area 1 and 2.
So to be clearly understood, by optional, we don't mean, well, the Navy may or may not do it. It's on this contract for this particular project, what are we going to do? And that's what one of the things Bryce is going to try to determine. Are we going to do this area plus this area with this area, or is this area going to come a little bit later?
Right. Ultimately, all the areas will get done. It's just as far as what we do as the removal action, will it be all three or just the two or one, etc. Okay, so why are we doing this soil removal action? Well, quite honestly, if we're going to be in the area doing the groundwater work, we may as well do the soil work around it. There's a small number of areas, I think it's 12 or 13 locations in the southern portion that need to be excavated. So it's to do that alongside of the groundwater portion. It's going to be quicker for us, cost savings for us, and obviously limit the disruption in the neighborhood. Get in, get it done, and then we will be done in that area. that will permanently eliminate any of those underground chemicals. And ultimately, that will accelerate the overall schedule for that portion of Site 12, which is planned as open space and also residential housing. Oh.
Pardon me.
Okay, so we talked about the action memorandum that's coming out as a draft next month in March. And if everything falls into place with preparing that document, preparing the work plans, we're hoping to get in the field sometime later this year. And that may or may not be a long effort. I mean, depending on rain delays, etc., it may take us 6 months or so to do all that. It could be shorter if it's another drought year, but that's coming later this year. So look for that. There it is in the schedule. We're still continuing on with Site 12's proposed plan, ROD, all the things that go into following the circle process, getting the site ready for reuse. And again, this is all related to the chemical aspects. The radiological circle process is on its own independent path associated, or on its own path, yeah. Okay.